Good morning. My name is Don Cinque. I'm the career coach at the BOCES Center here in Hornell. And today we're going to talk about making the right impression and 10 questions that you should have ready with prepared answers when you're in an interview. So let's get started. Okay, making the right impression. Now, when you go on an interview, people are just so nervous. They don't know how to express themselves. They don't know how to tell the interviewer about themselves. So today we're going to talk about how to make the right impression. Today I wore a shirt and a tie, slacks and shoes. And guys, this is what you should wear to the interview. Obviously, ladies, you don't necessarily want to wear this, but you get the idea. The other thing is that you need to know where you're going to interview so you know how to dress correctly. If you're going in for a job like many of you would go for, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be in an office. And so you want to dress appropriately. So guys, this is the way I would dress. Just like this. And ladies, a nice dress. We're going to talk about some other things as we go along. So it's important that you dress properly. And you're not only dressing to impress what you wear, but grooming is very important. Posture in the seat, being neat and presentable is important. The other thing is that good old handshake. Many times when you shake someone's hand and they're nervous, it's either limpy or it's soaking wet. Do you ever shake someone's hand that was soaking wet? So I tell the students, especially if they have student of the month interviews, wipe your hand off somewhere first before you go on the interview. You want to make that impression, and you'll surely leave a bad one if you have a limpy handshake and it's wet. The eye contact is very important, so you shake the person's hand, a firm grip. You don't want to break their hand, just a firm grip. Eye contact, look at them, and smile while you're doing all of those things. Okay, the next one is getting a good night's sleep. If you come into class each day and you've been up till 2 o'clock in the morning, you're probably going to be no use to yourself and probably a distraction to the class. So it's important that you get enough sleep so you're ready. You're ready to give those answers. And you're ready to look good and not have bags under your eyes because you didn't have any sleep. The next one is show that you're listening. How often have you talked to somebody and they look at you the first time and the next time they're looking all over the place, looking to see what's down the street and so forth? Let that interviewer know that you're listening to them. And they'll appreciate that. It'll show that you have interest and that you want to join the company. The eye contact, a few nods of agreement, they go a long way in saying that I'm listening. Be on time. You're going to hear a lot of different theories on this, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, and so forth. Just be on time is one of the golden rules. If the applicant is late, it tells that interviewer, if you're late for the interview, you're going to be late coming to work. So a good way to measure travel time is to schedule a day ahead of time and go to that office if it's out of town or if you don't know where it is. I would say at least 15 minutes. Why? Because when you walk in that door for your interview, you're going to go and talk to the receptionist and say you're here for an interview with Mr. Cinque, if that's the case. And then you're going to ask them where the restroom is. Now that might sound funny, but you're going to go to the restroom and you're going to look in the mirror and you're going to say, is that what I want Mr. Cinque to see? Because you really don't know what you look like until you do that. You think you do. So make sure your hair is straight. You make sure that your nails are clean. And above all, put your hand on your mouth and see what your breath is like. I know it's funny, but you'd be surprised. All those things have an effect on the first impression that you make. All right. The next one is that winning smile. When you smile at someone and you're talking to them or you shake their hand, you present a positive attitude to yourself unconsciously. You have that smile, that positive, I am going to get this job. I'm worth something. So you want to lead, you want to begin when you walk in with that smile. And again, don't wait for the interviewer to put his or her hand out. You put yours out first. It goes a long way in making a good impression. Don't overdo it, but just give that good smile. Positivity. We just talked about a little bit about that. It affects everything you say and how you act. The positive attitude will come through in your body language. It'll come through in your voice. Attitude. Remember, most people have everybody has an attitude. And without saying it any further, that makes a very strong impression. Being polite, nice manners, and so forth. Eye contact. Now, I'm not saying when you're sitting in an interview that your eyes should be drilled into the interviewer the whole time, as if you were mesmerized. You can look away a couple times when you might be speaking or expressing yourself because you're looking for words, but that eye contact is very important in conversation because it says that you're paying attention to that person. And that when you have good eye contact, what you say you want to impress them with, you want them to know this is you. So show the interviewer that you're interested in the company and in him. Now, there are many other factors that we can talk about as far as interviewing, but for you, on your first job, these are some basic things that you should be aware of. So I want to thank you for that this time, and we're going to move on to another area called 10 answers you should know before your job interview. Tell me about yourself. Those of you who I've worked with for Student of the Month interview, you know that this is what we start out with. Tell me about yourself. Well, telling that person about yourself is a way of them getting to know you. Now, you don't want to go into a lot of detail like I have 2 dogs and 3 cats, my birthday is this, and so forth. What you want to talk about is what's called an elevator speech. And it's probably a 30-second speech that you have the answers to already before the question's even asked. So you prepare for it. So it tells them about you, but also it tells the interviewer how you fit into the company, how you fit into that job. Obviously, you're going to know that job opening, what it is ahead of time, because that's why you're there, you're interested in it. So do your research, do your homework on that job that you're interviewing for, so you know how to answer the question about how you can help the employer, not necessarily how they can help you. Why should I hire you? Good question. Again, think about that in an interview. Why should I hire you? You want to tell them a story about yourself. A story about how you can help that company and about why they should hire you. What qualities do you have? And the best way to do that is an example, a little story. When someone says, tell me how you were a leader. Tell me how you were a team player. Have a little story, have a little scenario. What's your worst characteristics? That's like, what's your weakness and so forth. For all intents and purposes, let's say we don't have any weaknesses. So when you have a weakness, you want to turn it into a positive. The interviewer says, or the person might say, I tend to be a perfectionist. Or everybody says I work too hard. You can turn that into a positive by saying, I think I'm too outspoken at times, but I'm working on changing it. You're always working on changing that worst thing about you, because that shows that you're willing to learn, that shows that you have a positive attitude, and that says you want to be better. Where do you want to be in 5 years from now? So this is asked so many times. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Well, you don't want to be somewhere other than this company. You don't want to be working for their competitor. So an answer might be, I'd like to be employed in a small company like this one, where I can learn, contribute, and advance. Simple as that. All right, the next one is, can we go down? Thank you. Why did you leave your last job? Now, for many of you, that won't be a question that you can answer, because you left your last job because you graduated from high school or you graduated from college. That was your job then. So keep that in mind. And don't have if it's a case, if you have left a job, you don't want it to be negative. You don't want to blame the departure on somebody else, and you never, ever, ever want to talk about your former boss in a negative way. Why? Because if you're hired at that company and you leave there, you might talk about that boss in a negative way. So try to avoid that. Tell me about a problem you had in your life and how you should solve it. Again, they want to know how you can walk and chew gum at the same time. They want to know how you can think on your feet. And again, this is a story. You don't have to make this up. Think about your life and think about something you went through which was very difficult and how you dealt with it. I really wanted to go to a private university, but my parents didn't have the money. I went to a community college for 2 years, worked part-time, saved my money, so I could attend the last 2 years of college of my choice. Great answer. Number 7, have you had difficulties getting along with supervisor or coworkers? Again, you want to make that positive. You'd have to be a saint to have no problem with people that you've worked with. So you might say, nothing major, I try to get along with everybody. How do you deal with stress on the job? Well, this is something that you have to look at internally, dig deep down and say, how do I deal with stress on the job? You must ask yourself if you thrive on working with deadlines, or if you need creative time to function more effectively. Think about how you handled stress and be honest. I focus on the work I'm doing, or I make time to work out in the gym. Everybody has a balance in life. And I tell students, if you go to college and you study all the time, and you're always studying, and you're focused, and you're not balanced, you have no play, you don't have any downtime, you're going to burn out. And if you go to college and you play too much, and you don't focus and you don't study, you're going to flunk out. So it's an even balance. Get rid of some of that stress and energy by exercising or listening to music, whatever calms you down. What salary do you want for this job? Well, they want to figure out whether or not you're too expensive, or they want to figure out if you're coming to them too and don't think you should get that much at all. So rather than stating a definite figure, you just tell the interviewer you expect to get somewhere in the standard range paid to this position. And if it boils down to, they want a direct answer, you might say to them, well, turn it to them. What does this position start at? Do you have any questions for me? You always should have a few questions, and you should write those down before you get in there. You should have them in a little portfolio that you bring. Ask about current issues with a company. Ask about the job. Why the job is there. Did someone get fired? Is this a newly created job? Did someone leave the company? Ask them about the job and where you can advance in the company from this job. So those are some great questions to think about. And again, it's a two-way discovery process. You're doing your homework right now and answering interview questions intelligently. You're striving to prove that you're the person for this job. Now, on the other hand, you need to decide sometime in the midst of these questions if the position you're applying for is what you want, and if the company is where you want to spend most of your time for the next few years. So, I'd like to conclude that this is the end of this presentation, but now we're going to go into an actual live interview with one of the students in this class who doesn't know it yet, and we're going to do that right now. So thank you. Hi, this is Don Cinque again, the career coach at the Education Center here in Hornell. And today we're going to have a live interview with one of these students who doesn't know it yet, and so they're going to have the same type of stress that they would normally have for their first interview because they don't know what I'm going to ask and they don't know who I'm going to pick. So let's get started. Let's focus on the audience right now. All right. Number 8. Who's number 8? Come on up. Come on down. How you doing?
Good, how you doing?
Good. Have a seat. So for the camera, tell us your name.
My name is Kurt Hartwell.
Kurt, how are you doing?
Good, how you doing?
I'm good. So tell me about yourself.
I'm. Am I supposed to?
Yeah, tell me about yourself.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm a student at Hornell High School. I come up here to BOCES for Digital Media Arts, where I work on music production and audio production. And I hope someday I'm going out for state college after I graduate from high school.
Good.
And someday I just hope to become a music and audio producer.
Very good. How do you like the program up here?
It's definitely helped me a lot. I've enjoyed being able to use the private studio. And I've definitely been able to increase my abilities in that area. So,
How do you like your instructors?
they're pretty good. Yeah.
It's a loaded question, huh?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Okay. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, not knowing what company you're going to?
I see myself probably working in somewhere like this in the music and audio area. Possibly out in California, hopefully anyway. And just doing what I want to do.
Okay. So if you were asked by an employer, why should I hire you? What are you going to say?
Because I work hard and I love doing what I do. So.
Okay. Well, listen, thank you for your time.
No problem.
Take care.
Thank you.
So let's turn the cameras off for a second and let's critique that. All right, so what did you see? What did you see?
He was pretty nervous.
Okay, nervous, natural. What else? A lot of what?
A lot of ums.
Yeah, a lot of ums.
Didn't have any questions at the end.
Okay, probably too nervous to think about any, right?
Yeah.
So the whole idea is that it's very difficult for someone to answer questions if they're so nervous because the thought process goes right down the tubes. And they can't articulate. That's the big thing. They can't tell the people what they want, the question they want to answer. Do you have a question?
Not really a question, but I think even if you know what they might ask you, you still can say and just think about how you want to say it though. You know what I mean? Like he probably knew the answer to like some questions, but just to like think about it for a second, he said but he kind of had an idea of what he was gonna say anyways.
That's a great observation. And I use the word sometimes. And one of the things that I tell students is that if you're asked a question and you don't know the answer, you might say to the interviewer, boy, that's a good question. Can you just give me a minute to think about that? And then you might look away and think about it and then come back, taking the stress off yourself, and then come back and be prepared to answer it. Does that make sense? What else did you notice?
He wasn't making like direct eye contact. He was kind of moving his eyes a little bit.
Okay. He looked at me a couple times. It's Kurt, right? Kurt looked at me a couple times after we got going, and I got a smile out of him afterwards. Do you notice how good he looked once he smiled? Because the first time he came up here and I asked him, tell me about yourself, it was, I didn't know what to say. And that's typical. So that's why it's important to develop an elevator speech about yourself when someone says that. What are you going to say? And the best way to practice that is to go home and look in a mirror and answer that question while you can see yourself. And you can see what you look like. You can see how you're coming across. How else? What about the handshake? Introduction. Did you hear what he said? At the end, I said, thanks for coming. No problem? Is that what you said? Okay, yeah. Okay. So when you introduce yourself, you walk in and say, "Hi, I'm Don Cinque. Nice to meet you." And put your hand on. And after you're done with the interview, thank you for bringing me in, or something of that nature. And you might want to say to them, when do you expect to know about the position being filled? And they might say, well, I'm interviewing some more people, and we'll get back to you. And you might say, okay, thank you. Do you mind if I call in a week or two just to find out the status of my application? Okay. All right, I need victim number 2. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Good. I meant victim number, the second one, not number 2, but good, you came up.
Okay.
That's all right. Tell me about yourself.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Preston. I'm a senior at Hornell High School, and I go to the Wildwood campus of BOCES.
Good. What are your plans after you leave here?
After I leave high school and BOCES, I plan to go to Alfred State College for liberal arts and social sciences, and then I am going to I think I'm going to keep on going in Alfred State and change my major after the 2 years.
Okay. So tell me a story about a time where you were a leader.
A leader? I would have to say for a story when I'm a leader, I would have to say when I'm watching my brothers and my mom left for a couple days and I was in charge of all my brothers, and so I really had to make sure they got dressed for school, got to school, and were fed and ate, and I think that's when I was most the leader.
What's the biggest failure you've had, and how did you deal with it?
The biggest failure I've had probably would be not doing my best in my AP college course.
And what did you do about it?
I studied as hard as I could, and I did the best I could, and I still didn't do as well as I could have.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming.
Yep. Have a good day.
You too, thank you. Okay, so what did you see there?
Sounded more like she was on the camera by herself than it did an interview. It sounded natural, as if she was alone in a camera, but not so much in an interview. And she said, hi, I'm Caitlin Preston, and I go to where they said hi before.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What else did you notice? Observations.
She didn't seem as nervous.
She didn't seem as nervous?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you mean?
Just the way she talked, you could tell that she didn't seem as nervous, even if she really was.
Okay. What did she do with her hands?
Played with her hands.
How many times did she fix her glasses?
A lot, probably. I do that a lot. It's
Okay.
psychological.
That's it? Okay. The hand movement was okay. A couple times she was expressing herself, but then when she wasn't, she did this a little bit. All right? That's okay. Just so, see, you don't know you're doing these things unless you actually see it. She had some good answers. I gave her some tough questions that probably she was never asked before, and you handled it pretty well. When you first introduced yourself, it was hard for you to look up at me. You looked down and then you caught yourself and looked up, and then when you said goodbye, thank you for your time, and then you looked up. It should be thank you for your time right away, rather than thank you for your time. All right? Good. All right, let's do one more. Boy, there's a volunteer I never even asked a question.
How you doing?
How are you doing?
Pretty good.
What's your name?
My name's Kevin Whitney.
Hi, have a seat, Kevin. So, Kevin, you're interviewing for this job.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you find out about this job?
Found it out through the internet. A few of my friends talked to me about it, and I thought I'd, stop on by and see what it's all about.
What do you know about this job from what you read?
So far from what I've read about this job, it's a construction job for for builders all around New York, and I'm very excited for the opportunity.
What can you bring to the table so I could hire you?
I'm strong, I'm good, I'm energetic, I work on my feet, and I think I could bring a lot of teamwork together because I could be a good leader and I get along with mostly everyone.
What's the worst thing that ever happened to you, and how'd you deal with it?
The worst thing that ever happened to me would probably be the death of my cat.
Tell me about that. How'd you handle it?
I handled it pretty well. I buried my cat, and I just kind of grieved, and I talked to my therapist a little bit about it, and I talked to my counselor a little bit.
Tough to talk about it?
Yes,
All right.
indeed.
So we'll go to something else. What's your biggest success, and how did you handle that?
My biggest success would probably be in 4th grade, and I was in the spelling bee. I was in 3rd place, and I won some bowling tickets. And I went bowling after the spelling bee.
Wow.
Yeah, and I almost did a perfect game, but I didn't, unfortunately.
So tell me your plans after you leave here.
My plans after high school would probably be, it'd probably be to take a year off to get my life together in a job, get a car, and eventually go to college at the New York Film Academy. That's where I'd like to go.
Very good. Well, thank you for coming in, Kevin.
Thank you for your time.
Take care. Okay. Obviously a public speaker. Obviously someone who likes to talk. Am I right? All right. Great introduction. Great eye contact. When I asked him about, what did I ask you about your, the worst thing that ever happened to you or something like that? And then you added, your cat. I grieved, and I talked to my therapist, and I talked to my counselor. In a job interview, you may want to not talk about your therapist or your counselor. You might just talk about how you handled it.
I'm a little haywire.
Pardon me?
I'm a little haywire.
A little haywire. Yeah, they might think that there's going to be some mental health problems after you're hired on the job, so you want to kind of stay away from that. Had some good answers. When he had to think about something, rather than ask me, can I think about that for a moment, about his plans after high school, he had to think about it because he didn't know how to put it across real quickly. You noticed he looked up in the air and he kind of thought about it, and then he came back. And he's doing what a lot of people do, and they have that gap year. It's called a gap year. And it's a time after high school that you try to find yourself and try to find out what you want to do, and you take some time off. He's taking some time off by going to a job. Now, some people do it by going to fast food, a restaurant, Mickey D's, something like that, only to find out this may not be something I want to do for the rest of my life. And so now you can appreciate an education later on, and maybe not now. So that kind of concludes this session for preparing for an interview and the actual demonstrations. I hope you learned something from it. I hope you got some ideas. And if you have any comments, please email me at dcinque@gstboces.org. And thank you very much. And as I always say in my phone message, have a great day.